should mothers be forced to nurse post-birth, even though we don't know their capacity to breastfeed?
Yes.
So you think women should be forced to breastfeed?
Yeah.
All right.
The problem with that is what? You have accepted responsibility for the baby, right? By your worldview?
Yes, but obviously
so then
if
you
there
have
are
an obligation to feed the baby.
So then, yeah, and obviously there are other means which you can feed the baby.
Yeah, poisonous means.
There are still other means.
So do you think that feeding kids poison is a good idea?
I think kids that are fed is best. Absolutely.
So you just like, would you give the baby like straight chocolate? Because it's
Of course not.
Why?
Because breast milk and formula are essentially the only liquids at that point where an infant can get their full nutritional profile.
You're not getting your full nutritional profile, though.
I mean, you are. Otherwise, you would die.
Though you're not. No, you wouldn't necessarily mean you die, but it would inhibit the development of your brain. It would inhibit the development of the brain.
I'm not interested in having a discussion between formula and breast.
Well, which one do you think is better for the baby?
I think fed is best.
What?
But I opted for.
That's not what I asked. What a cop out. Which one is better for the baby?
I opted to breastfeed.
Why?
Because it was cheaper.
And you thought it was better for the baby, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So then the thing is like, why couldn't I compel you to do that? Or shouldn't I be able to?
I think it should be like, obviously, the person's will. I think will should be
Yeah, but now
considered.
you're in charge of somebody else. Like if I fed my kid chocolate every single day as his only source of nutrition, wouldn't you advocate that the state came in and took that kid from me?
If you fed them chocolate every day?
No, that's all I fed them.
Is chocolate?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if they were starving, yeah.
Yeah, so depriving.
I mean, I guess at what degree are we deciding that parents have their children taken away based on their diet?
We don't always know what's optimal, but in this
Wouldn't
case
that
we
be
do.
arbitrary?
In this case, we do actually know what's optimal.
Wouldn't that be arbitrary?
In the one case, sure.
Okay.
But in this case, no. We actually do know what's optimal here.
So I think if we're talking about like what we would want to happen, I agree with you that like breast milk is great and it's the optimal choice. I don't think someone should be forced to do so.
Why not? Seems like a good idea to force them to. If you're going to take possession of your child, I don't see any problem with them telling you that, hey.
Because it's your body.
So?
I mean, so I think obviously then the other alternative, would you have an issue if they pump?
No.
And then breastfeed?
But that's the same thing. It's breast milk.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the most optimal thing to give them, right?
I think, again, this would just relate down to autonomy because obviously everyone's conditions are different.
Yeah, but in this case, you have a dependent.
I think more women would breastfeed if we had more social safety nets when it comes to women giving birth.
Yeah, but I also think they would breastfeed if they say you need to breastfeed this child. You must.
I think it's just an unreasonable. So what if your child?
I think it's the most reasonable.
What if your child needed blood? Would you be obligated? Would you want legal laws that parents are forced to give them their blood?
Yeah. And the problem with this in society would be what?
What about kidney?
No.
So why are you drawing the line
I
there?
draw it the same place that you would on the idea that if it's going to kill you.
Getting rid of your kidney wouldn't kill you.
Oh, yeah. It's going to lead to your demise much faster.
It wouldn't kill you, though.
Yes, it would. That's killing you.
It's not. You can survive with one kidney.
For less time than you can survive with two.
That doesn't kill you.
That's killing you.
I mean, you could say the same thing about blood.
Okay, so just to make sure that this is correct,
Then would you do bone marrow?
If I said I'm going to take off 10 years of your life, I'm not killing you?
No, you're not directly killing me.
Oh, okay.
You are limiting my life expectancy, sure.
So if I took your life down to tomorrow, I'm not killing you?
If you took my life down to tomorrow, what are you doing?
Or 10 minutes? That's not killing you? If I could just like snap
Again, so if we're talking about like direct cause, obviously things have chain link reactions. Mm-hmm. So are you just saying like you do anything, you're responsible for any link in the chain? Or are we talking about what...
I'm saying that your duties to your children need to comport with reason. And so I think that you can make at least a strong enough case.
If there's an alternative food source, I don't think...
Hang on. I think that you can make a strong enough case that if no other blood was present, to give from donors, that a parent had a duty and obligation to give their
I could
blood
say-
to a child. Hang on. To a child, and that would comport with reason just fine. Whereas it may not comport to reason to say that this could have dire effects on your health, giving them a kidney. That's a whole different situation.
I mean, I don't think it is, because I mean, you would even say like pregnancy can come with severe health complications that can reduce your life expectancy.
Yeah, sure.
So then I don't have to do that now?
No, you still have to do that. Yeah.
Then that's inconsistent.
What's the inconsistency?
You just said I don't have to give the kidney because that comes with health complications
It's not because it comes with health complications. It's because this particular complication demonstrated to always shorten life. Pregnancy is not. In fact, pregnancy has been demonstrated to elongate life.
If there's one instance where someone gives a kidney and it doesn't demonstrate a shorter life expectancy, then it's okay.
How could you demonstrate that?
I don't know. How are you demonstrating that? It always does.
The only way that we're demonstrating that...
Aren't these just typical outcomes?
Well, we can just compare people who give kidneys to people who don't give kidneys, and then you can just correlate the lifespan. Simple.
But that doesn't mean always.
Yeah, it's almost always the case.
But it doesn't mean always.
There could be some exception, just like in pregnancy.
So the same thing could apply with a kidney.
But if there's a single... Here's the thing, though. If there's a single exception to something, that doesn't mean we wouldn't legislate based on the general rule.
But then your
because you can have an exception biologically to anything.
Because your standard is inconsistent.
The standard's still consistent.
I think if you and I are going to establish what a parental obligation is or responsibility, it's just going to be arbitrary.
Yeah, but okay.
To what severe degree does a parent need to experience in order for that not to be a duty?
If you make the case of arbitrarity, then you can say everything is arbitrary. The age of consent is arbitrary, right?
There are a lot of things that are...
Is the age of consent arbitrary?
What do you mean?
Is the age of consent...
I don't want to pivot.
Can you answer my question?
No,
I'm checking you for your consistency on arbitrariness.
No, I'm checking you for being your consistency.
And I'm happy to answer, but when you
I have to go first?
When you say a thing is because we're talking about what's arbitrary. So if you say a thing is arbitrary, almost everything is arbitrary.
We already agreed that essentially establishing when consciousness occurred is arbitrary.
Yeah, but I'm talking now. I'm saying, is the age of consent arbitrary?
In terms of what?
In terms of there's no...
If the age of consent is 16, no, that's not arbitrary. It's obviously 16.
How did you come up with it being 16?
I mean, that would depend on the reasoning.
So it's arbitrary.
In some cases, sure.
But if it is the case, and I grant to you that, hey, no, it's not arbitrary because you're 16, then no, it's not arbitrary that you don't have to give a kidney, but you do have to give blood. That's not arbitrary now.
It is. How are you, selecting at what degree the parent has to experience in order for that?
How are you selecting the age of consent?
I think we can obviously have markers when it comes to the age of consent.
So we can have delineations between harm factors where we can comport them to reason when it comes to giving blood or kidneys. Simple.
Do you think parents have an obligation to experience torture in order to keep their children alive?
I think that you can make the case that a father or mother should have some duty towards trying to experience, or not trying to experience it, but that they may need to suffer in order to keep their kid alive. Yeah.
I don't disagree, but I'm asking, is that a legal expectation that we will torture you to keep your child alive?
That's a moral expectation then.
So obviously, but you do want to have laws that would require parents to be tortured to keep their children alive.
What's the torture?
I mean, forced pregnancy is torture.
How is that torture?
Well, I mean, it's classified as torture by the UN. I would say it would just meet a specific threshold of suffering.
Okay, well, then I would say that it's torturing the baby.
How?
So, because you're going to kill it. I would say that that's a form of torture. Or I could even say it's mental torture on the mother to terminate the pregnancy. You could have long-term side effects on her mental health.
That only depends on how wanted the pregnancy is. And again, if you don't have the capacity to experience, I don't know how you can experience torture.
Yeah, but not only that, you know what's really weird about this argument specifically is do you have an obligation to be tortured on behalf of your children, right? It's well, let's look at this. Let's examine it. On the one side, I do want to say yes. I think you do. And I think you even agree that to some degree we do. But for some reason, you're unless it's inside my stomach, which is really weird.
What do you mean?
Well, you just got done saying that you think to some degree parents need to be able to experience suffering for their children.
That they will experience suffering. Do I think
Yeah.
they should be forced to? No.
Never?
No, I can't think of an instance.
Like, well, I don't know. Your kid, for instance, has autism or something like this, right? You still need to take care of that kid, give them special treatment, things like that. That definitely causes suffering.
Not to the same degree that I would say violations towards your bodily autonomy would be.
That is violation
And
toward your
again,
bodily
I
autonomy.
wouldn't force, one second, and I disagree with that. I wouldn't force, if a parent can't meet the needs of the child, then I think that would be a societal responsibility.
So then you just shift the burden.
Yeah, I don't want to force parents to be parents. I want that to be done willingly because that's the best outcome for the child.
So if nobody gave blood, let's say hypothetically, just nobody gave blood, right? Do you think that the parent has an obligation to give their kid blood if they're in an accident?
I think they should, but I don't think that it should be legally enforced.
So then the kid just dies if the parent doesn't want to?
Yeah.
Yeah.